So he saw the origin of life. We talk about the physical form as you need three major factors. One, you need father and mother consummate together, which in modern terms we call sperm and egg fertilization. Then you need mother, has to be still menstruating. That means you have to have a healthy womb, a cradle for the baby to develop there. So the ovulation, the eggs and womb. Womb is basically macro environment for the fetus to develop. The microenvironment, just like an eggshell, a nuclear substance, that you can suck out a nuclear substance and put in your other human being genes in there. Okay? That's what they're talking about, cloning. Okay? And you just spark it up, then it will grow into your cells instead of the original egg chromosome. So you have to have that macro and micro environment. The womb became macro environment, and the egg is micro environment. And then there's need the third factor, birth consciousness, which also depends on three factors. Karma, what you have done in the past, the consequence of that. We talk about cause, action and consequence, karma. Consciousness, birth consciousness. And the third one is craving. It's like your sticky glue. It makes implant you to grow, take another life form, and so on. So it's fertilization, conception. So this is Mahatanda Sangha Sutra. Then he described life form developing in the womb. It's like kalala, or the embryo. He said, originally, that we saw like those eggs, it became the last one there at the bottom. It was, that's magnified under electron microscope. He says it's clear as a tiny drop of sesame seed oil sticking to the tip of the llama hair, and you check it 8 times, then it becomes that small. That is it. So basically was telling it's microscopic. And then a week later it become a putta, a white dot. Basically it's like blastocyst that neuroscientists talk about. It comes in about 5 days, about 32 cells and so on that divide in that egg. And then pasty, the blood tinged dot, that start to develop blood vessels. Then kana, a tiny mass a week later. And it became pasaka, 5 parts, 1 head, 2 arms, 2 legs, 7 days later. And then there's hair, bodily hair, nail, kesaloma, naka. And then whatever mother consumed, fetus was thrive on such food. So it became an embryo there, the fetus there, developed into a fetus. So that's been described over 2,500 years ago. Is that amazing? No electron microscope, no microscope. And he said, in life, in youth, there's aging. Like from a fetus at the bottom, became a child, adolescence, a teenager, and then became a young man, a middle-aged man, an old-aged man, and then die, just like another chapter of a book. One book with many chapters. We keep changing all the time physically. Physically, you can see the change much easier, but sometimes you need time. Like you haven't seen your relatives or your niece or nephew 5 years later. He grew up so much. That's impermanence. And thanks to impermanence, you grow. Unfortunately, you also age from day one, like it or not. Mentally, it's very, very difficult to perceive because mind is formless. But it leaves a trace behind, like I told you. Feeling, perception, and thought formation that you can visualize or catch it through your meditation. So mindful awareness would catch mind movement, which is your thoughts that leave a trace behind. And all of this follow, whether physically or mentally, they're impermanent, imperfect, and selfless in nature, for universal characteristics. He described in this Chara Sutra, when Ananda, his personal attendant, asked him, how come your complexion is not as shiny as you were when he was old age? They're about the same age. He lived to be 80 years old. He must have asked this in the latter part of his life. Kind of bending forward, like he got a little curvature of the spine, kyphosis or something. And then he said, your faculty is not as sharp as it used to be. Like your nose, tongue and so on, is not as sharp as before. Buddha answered, in youth there's aging. In health there's illness. In life there's death. We talk about in youth there's aging. We did talk about that one. In youth there's aging. He said in health there's illness, and in life there's death. Even though one may condemn aging, blaming aging for causing bad complexion, yet such beautiful body will still be aging. You cannot stop it, as he was trying to say. It's a natural phenomenon. Even some may live to be 100 years old, yet no one can escape death. And the Buddha showed us he died at the age of 80. Death would crush all lives without exception. When I emailed this message to my friend in Chicago, and he forwarded to his researcher friend, a PhD at U of Chicago. And that guy wrote back, said, how did the Buddha know about apoptosis, programmed cell death? See, in youth there's aging, in health there's illness, in life there's death. Basically he was talking apoptosis, programmed cell death. In health there's illness. We're exposed to all sorts of antigen all the time, including tumor cells. The pollens make us sneeze. The dark danders make us sneeze, having asthma and so on. Bacteria, even like the bottom there is like a spirochetes and so on, cause illness in us. And we have the innate immunity and also adaptive immunity to fight against all these things. We produce antibodies towards antigen. Sometimes overproduce, causes us to have allergy, anaphylaxis, and so on. Causes us to have asthma. We have troops of white cells and lymphocytes to protect us and make antibodies. And in reality, basically, they found like there's up to 500,000 DNA modification events per cell per day. They were busy. 500,000 times a day modification in each cells. Okay? So if the metabolism turned out to be either exposure to exogenous or endogenous damage, a healthy cell basically, because of the rate of DNA damage, equal the rate of repair, then you become a healthy person. Even that, you still age. So you're at a loss at all time. But we perceive biasly that we're healthy. If the disease cell basically the rate of DNA damage exceeds the rate of repair, that's how we get aging and die. And this is simply shown here. In life there's death. That's the third verse that he described. And this is called apoptosis, programmed cell death.